If you're here to get your little device that automatically pulls out fluoride, heavy metals, and even many prescription drugs out of your water, my suggestion is to act fast. I'm going to do my best to keep enough in stock, but with the recent Harvard research study that links fluoride to lower IQ scores, heavy metals being found in drinking water by the US government, and the EPA confirming dangerous prescription drugs could be dribbling out of your tap, these devices will undoubtedly sell out quick. Honestly, I'm not surprised people are snatching these up so quickly. So I'm setting a firm limit. Only every 10 out of 100 people who see this video will get to claim one of these healthy devices. It's the only way I can think of to be fair. I'm giving you a chance to be one of the 10. But if you leave this page, I cannot save your spot. I know it sounds harsh, but this is the only invention in the world using this health-boosting technology. So it's only fair to do this on a first-come, first-served basis. Here's the other reason I think these are flying off the shelf. The CDC has finally released their data on fluoride in the water. You've probably suspected this already, but the results surprised me. I mapped it out. And if you see your state in red, you know you've got fluoride in the water. My state, Texas, was hit hard. You can see California, New York, and Ohio are in the red zone too. And that's not even counting the heavy metals like cancer-causing chromium-6, prescription drugs, and other toxins that have been found in tap water across the United States. Thousands of people have realized this is a real problem, and it affects you and me. And it's spreading like wildfire that this little invention can help get all those chemicals, 71 in total, out of your drinking water fast. This little device is called the Clearly Filtered Purifying Pitcher. And if the comments from all the people who have claimed theirs are anything to go by, it's going to go quick. Especially since many people want to get contaminants like IQ-lowering fluoride, cancer-causing pesticides, or even dangerous heavy metals like mercury, lead, or even arsenic out of their water. Let me show you how this little invention works. Take a look at this water. I'm going to drop in some dirt and stir it up. You can tell it's highly contaminated with unhealthy stuff. Now, let's pour it in a clearly filtered purifying pitcher and a Brita pitcher. The clearly filtered purifying pitcher looks just like every other device, but it's actually built to pull out unhealthy and dangerous chemicals. See the steady stream of water coming out of the clearly filtered purifying pitcher? It's using gravity to pull the water through a path of contaminant-catching micropores. If you impact this little filter, it's got enough surface area you could cover half an NFL football field with it. That way, the water molecules get pulled across a long section that blasts fluoride, heavy metal, and bacteria out of your water. But since it happens on a molecular level, it goes pretty fast. Unfortunately, the Brita filter gets jammed up and doesn't filter much at all. Even the little bit of water it spits out is dirty. Now for the moment of truth. Taste test time. You saw how muddy the water was at the beginning. Now it's crystal clear. Let me explain how the clearly filtered purifying pitcher pulled all that dirt and bacteria out, even when the Brita filter got clogged. Here's what makes this water purifying technology so special. The filter on the right is the clearly filtered purifying pitcher. The filter on the left is a Brita pitcher. Most people see the clearly filtered purifying pitcher and think, that looks just like a plain old pitcher. How do I know it works? To start, the clearly filtered purifying pitcher is made with 100% BPA-free plastic. I couldn't tell you what the Brita filter is made of. But let's zoom in so you can see the differences in how their filters work. Both filters start the same way. First, gravity pulls the water through a layer of activated carbon. Activated carbon is great for grabbing chemicals like pesticides, benzene, which the American Cancer Society links to blood cancer, and herbicides, which have to be toxic to kill plants, so I don't want them anywhere near my water. But if you look closely, you'll see the Brita filter has all different size holes. It's because they use a cheaper carbon filter. Here's the problem. The water only gets cleaned when it goes through the small holes. But since water naturally takes the path of least resistance, and the big holes are easier to flow through, a lot of your water will slip right through there. That means a good chunk of the water in the Brita filter will skip the cleaning pores and slip into your drinking water, contaminants and all. The clearly filtered purifying pitcher is different. It uses more completely organic, activated coconut carbon instead. We don't just use coconut carbon because it's better for the environment. It lets you make all the pores the same size, meaning the only way the water can go is straight through the tiny micropores. This pitcher has pores that are just 2.0 microns in size. The activated coconut carbon is ionically charged, so as the contaminants pass by, The carbon's natural electrical charge grabs them and sticks them to the filter. The Brita pitcher stops with just a single cheap carbon block. And to be honest, it does a pretty good job of getting chlorine out. But it does nothing to stop the fluoride or heavy metals. The clearly filtered purifying pitcher does. The secret is inside the second part of the filter. Underneath the coconut carbon is a layer of special organic filter. We found out that nature has already figured out how to get rid of all these nasty contaminants for us. So we call this our Nat Clean filter. This Nat Clean filter works two ways. First, by grabbing heavy metals, fluoride, and pharmaceutical contaminants while they're passing by, but letting good minerals and pure water go straight through. Think of it like a magnet. If you've got a positive magnet, it'll let the other positive magnets go by, but as soon as it sees a negatively charged magnet, it's got it. The second way the special organic filter works is by actually absorbing the toxins or contaminants as they float by. Imagine a chemical trap. When fluoride, lead, or even some prescription drugs float by, the trap springs and sucks the bad chemicals inside. Then it resets, ready to grab the next contaminant. Now, here's a question you might have. What happens if the activated coconut carbon has a pore that gets clogged up, the magnet-like molecule misses the fluoride, or the chemical trap already has a contaminant captured and hasn't reset yet? Great question. If there was only one pass, honestly, you'd be in trouble. The contaminants would leak through into your drinking water. But packed inside this little filter are thousands and thousands of microchannels, forcing the water through the coconut carbon, magnet-like molecule, and chemical quicksand trap not just once, but thousands of times. In fact, if you took the filter apart and laid it out side by side, you'd cover half the surface area of a professional football field. Now imagine it's full of all the chemical traps I told you about, and a teeny tiny toxic molecule of fluoride, heavy metal, or prescription drugs has to walk from one side or the other. It'd be like you or I trying to walk through the state of Texas if it was filled with explosive landmines. If you had to place a bet, do you think those toxic chemicals will make it or be captured? Oh, and I forgot to mention, there isn't just one filter inside your clearly filtered purifying pitcher. There are actually 4. So toxins have to try and escape not just one, but 4 of these high-powered purifying filters. That way your water gets the best taste and stripped of as many chemicals as possible. But it's hard to imagine little bits of fluoride or heavy metals or other unhealthy chemicals like prescription drugs in your water since they're so hard to taste and see. So I'm going to show you what happens when you try to filter something with tens of millions of ionic chemicals mixed into the water so tight it changes the color. Just looking at this stuff, you can imagine there are lots of contaminants. Don't get too grossed out. This is just yellow Gatorade. So let's pour it in the filters. You can see the Brita filter is actually going faster this time. The clearly filtered purifying pitcher is running a bit slower. Let me explain why. The Brita has just one filter, and the particles are so small they flow right through. The clearly filtered purifying pitcher actually has 4, so it can pull out chemicals that are mixed even on a microscopic level, just like the yellow coloring chemical in Gatorade. That's really important if you want to get rid of fluoride and heavy metals like lead or arsenic, not to mention tiny prescription drugs. See the difference between the two? The Brita filter doesn't seem to filter out much at all. You can see how yellow it is, just like when we poured it in. The clearly filtered purifying pitcher pulls out the yellow contaminants, but what you can't see is it leaves in the healthy electrolytes so the water can work to keep your body healthy. Between the activated coconut carbon and our proprietary Nat Clean filter that traps bad chemicals, this filter can pull out cancer-causing benzene. The American Cancer Association has linked this to a very difficult to treat type of cancer, cancer of the blood, IQ-lowering fluoride, hormone-changing prescription drugs, poisonous arsenic and lead, toxic pesticides and herbicides, highly reactive nitrates, 71 chemicals in all. But even though it pulls out bad chemicals, it keeps your water chock full of the healthy minerals. Filtration systems like reverse osmosis strip out all the healthy minerals you absolutely need to survive. In the industry, they call that dead water. But this special pitcher lets calcium, magnesium, zinc, and other critical minerals through, so you can get rid of toxins but stay healthy. It makes sense if you think about it. When you drink tasty mountain spring water, you're also getting the natural, clean minerals it picked up. It's water just the way nature made it. Unfortunately, most people's tap water is nowhere close to a mountain spring. So let me ask you, which do you think is better for your body? Naturally filtered mountain spring water or the chemically modified water that comes out of your tap? I think the spring water is an easy answer, which is why the clearly filtered purifying pitcher is put together to pull out harmful chemicals and keep your water as natural as possible. But this isn't just theory. We asked an independent government agency, the County of Los Angeles underneath the Agriculture Commissioner, to do a full-scale test to see how well this filter really works. They did tests for all 71 chemicals I told you about. You can look at these lab results yourself. They're below along with the PDF download link. But I'm going to go through a few of the chemicals you really want to watch for. If you look at the fluoride reading on the third line, you'll see that it started with 1 milligram per liter. That's the same as 1 part per million. That's almost the same amount as my tap water has. And it filtered out more than 90% of it. But when I saw that, I was thinking to myself, just 90%? What about the other 10%? After all, if you look at arsenic underneath, it pulls out 99% of that. But here's the thing I missed the first time around. Look at the column that says reporting limit. The reporting limit for fluoride is 0.1 milligrams per liter. That means if there's less than 0.1, the lab scientists couldn't detect it. Now hop back over to the post-filtration result column. What do you see? Less than 0.1. So the filter actually does take out more than 90%. It gets the levels so low that the fluoride levels are below the Los Angeles County researchers' scale, which is a good sign. But your clearly filtered purifying pitcher pulls out a lot more than just fluoride. Look at the lead reading. It pulls out more than 97.5% of lead, which is good, because once lead gets inside you, your body can't tell the difference between it and the good metals, so it sneaks into your bloodstream and can cause anemia or weaken your bones so you feel frail and brittle. Same with arsenic. It's got no taste, smell, or color when you mix it in water, which is why it was used by the Romans as a deadly poison. The problem is natural arsenic deposits can slip some of this metal into your drinking water, and if local filters miss it, you'll have no way to know. In the Los Angeles lab tests, our pitcher removed 99% of the arsenic, so you know your water is safe to drink. You probably already know how damaging mercury can be. Less than a gram of this heavy metal can cause toxicity or death. It's got nasty side effects like brain damage, tearing up your kidneys, or even damaging your lungs. Obviously, we wanted to be sure your clearly filtered purifying pitcher could pull out the mercury in your drinking water. The lab results showed the filter got it so low the testers couldn't even measure it. The threshold for them to measure it is 0.5 micrograms, and the pitcher pulled out so much mercury that it was below their threshold. But another heavy metal most people have no idea even exists is thallium. This potentially cancer-causing metal happily dissolves in water, which means it can easily leak into your water supply. The big problem is how toxic it is. It tricks your body into thinking it's potassium, which is critical for you to survive, and then can attack certain cells and destroy them. It's so good at causing cell death, it's used in many places for rat and ant poison. One of the signs of low-dose thallium poisoning is hair loss. Nasty stuff. The good news is, your clearly filtered purifying pitcher removes more than 99.50% of this toxin. You also need to be on the lookout for benzene. It's a Class 1 carcinogen, which means it's internationally known to cause cancer in humans. In fact, it's banned in quite a few Western countries. If you check the lab tests, you'll see your pitcher pulls out 99.78% of the benzene, so you'll have nothing to worry about. The purifying pitcher also pulls out a whole slew of other carbon-based molecules. These are the same kinds of molecules as are found in prescription drugs, so it's very important to get those out of your water. Have you ever seen the documentary Tapped? The scientists talked about how the leached plastics in prescription drugs had actually changed male fish into female fish. The scary part is, these are so poisonous that you only need a teeny tiny amount in your water to make you sick. All it takes is a few parts per million. Here's why. They can act like hormones, which are the messenger chemicals of the body. It's like your body is a big command center with a self-destruct switch inside. Prescription drugs can be the sneaky spy telling your body to push the red button and throw everything out of balance. There's not a specific test for prescription drugs since there are so many. But like I said, a lot of the active ingredients in medications are carbon-based, and this filter is set up to grab them before they get to you. Now, if I handed you a glass of water with all these unnatural chemicals murking up your water, and I handed you a glass of pure, natural water, which do you think would taste better? The natural water for sure, which is why it was so important to have certified scientists be sure the clearly filtered purifying pitcher could remove these toxins. All in all, there are 71 chemicals that the Los Angeles County lab tested. You can click the link below to see the results yourself. I've left the names, signatures, and contact information of the scientists in charge on there, so you can reference them if you want to get in touch. And just in case you want to call and double-check the results, the main office's phone number is 562-940-6778. Or you can drop by in person. The name of the group is Environmental Toxicology Bureau, and they're located at 11012 Garfield Avenue, Building B, Southgate, California, 90280. Now keep in mind, most water pitchers don't pull out half this stuff. Brita boasts on their website that they leave healthy amounts of fluoride in, which means they don't touch the fluoride in your water. They make no claims about heavy metals, benzene, or anything other than chlorine. Now you understand what kind of toxins and contaminants the clearly filtered purifying pitcher pulls out. The same kind of toxins a lot of other filters miss. But let me explain why it's so important to get those chemicals out of your water. Before I do, I should warn you, what I'm about to tell you is going to be controversial. Many well-educated and even well-meaning people have ignored science, and the rest of us are paying for it. Harvard University recently released a study that found something disturbing. Children that live in highly fluoridated water areas have significantly lower IQ scores. At first, I thought this might have been a rogue study, but then I found out this study was funded by the National Institute of Health. After I heard about this, I couldn't help but wonder, don't we have fluoride in our toothpaste? Apparently, fluoride is only supposed to be used on the surface of your teeth. In fact, many dentists will tell you not to swallow the little strip of toothpaste on your brush because it's toxic. The crazy part is, manufacturers agree. Just take a look at the labels on toothpaste. You're told to get medical help or contact a poison control center right away if you swallow your toothpaste. See, fluoride is okay on your teeth, but it was never meant to be swallowed. Research has also shown that fluoride can be part of problems with the pineal gland, a critical block in our spine, arthritis, bone damage, hip fractures in the elderly, reproduction, and in some cases, bone cancer. There are quite a few other countries that have figured this out. In fact, 97% of Western Europe has stopped putting fluoride in their water. Countries like Belgium, Austria, Finland, Denmark, Norway, Hungary, and Japan have stopped using fluoride in their water or rejected it altogether. Sweden has banned it, and Germany has completely outlawed putting fluoride into their water. But the United States has more people drinking fluoridated water than the whole rest of the world combined. It's a whopping 194 million people. The story is it stops tooth decay, but the World Health Organization showed countries that did not use fluoridated water have dropped to the exact same levels of tooth decay, or even lower in one example. Just look at that. Belgium has no fluoride at all in their water, and they've had almost the same exact tooth decay rate as the United States since 1970. Iceland uses no fluoride, but it has a lower amount of tooth decay than New Zealand, who does fluoridate their water. Italy and Japan are fluoride-free, but are nearly exactly lined up with the rest of the countries. And if that's the case, why keep fluoride in the water? The worst part is, like I mentioned before, it's not just fluoride that's gotten into our water. Heavy metals, prescription drugs, and other toxins are present as well. If you're drinking water out of your tap or even your well, you could be putting these chemicals into your body without knowing it. And if you think you'll be fine if you drink bottled water, think again. Between 25 and 40% of bottled water comes from regular U.S. tap water. Turns out bottled water isn't any better. In 2005, the USDA decided to check and see what this so-called purified water actually has in it. The amount of fluoride they found was downright shocking. If you drank nothing but bottled water, not only would you spend 5 to 6 times the amount of money, but you'd be pumping an average of 0.11 parts per million of fluoride into your body every day. The fact is, bottled water contains fluoride and other toxic chemicals identical to what you'd find in your tap water at home. You'll just get charged more for it. In fact, the typical U.S. household spends up to $1,000 a year on bottled water. What do you think is worth more? Tap water stuck in a plastic bottle, or a pitcher that can purify your tap water over and over again? Most people would take the pitcher they can use over and over again. The problem is, like I mentioned, only 10 out of every 100 people who come to this page will be able to claim a pitcher. Remember, It forces water through deluxe coconut carbon with 2.0 micron holes, so no big bacteria can get through. Then pulls the water through half a football field's worth of microchannels, and finally uses its special gnat clean system to absorb toxins and trap them like a mousetrap. So, what's the cost of the clearly filtered water pitcher? Even though the average American family spends up to $1,000 per year on bottled water, I don't think clean water like this should cost anywhere close to that. It's critical to have a cheap way to get those nasty chemicals out of your drinking water. But one of the only other ways to get fluoride out of your water is with complex systems that take up tons of space in your kitchen. And those start at $231. And you'll be hard-pressed to find filters of comparable size that have the ability to filter out fluoride and use any water source, not just tap water. In my mind, that means $231 would be a fair price. After all, this pitcher does more, yet takes up just a quarter of the space. But I want to make this affordable to consumers everywhere. I know you're serious about the health of you and your family, and I don't want the price to hold you back from having clean drinking water. So I thought $100 would be a bargain compared to the other pitchers. But here's where the first come, first serve piece comes in. I've decided to offer the clearly filtered water pitcher for only $69.95. That's 69.7% off the original $231 system I told you about. If you've gotten this far, you must have figured out how damaging the chemicals in our water can be. The good news is, thousands of other people have realized the same thing. The bad news is, with the big discount I'm giving out, you're going to have to beat out those thousands of other people to claiming your pitcher. Click the button to grab your clearly filtered purifying pitcher. Click the button now. I've done my research and honestly believe this is the best pitcher out there, and there's nowhere you can get it for a lower price. But if you think you might be able to find a better pitcher that pulls out fluoride, many prescription drugs, and heavy metals, here's what you can do. Claim your clearly filtered purifying pitcher now, just to be sure you don't lose your chance. Then take the next 90 days and research other pitchers. If you find one that can do the same thing this one can, or you simply decide you like another system more, you can just send the pitcher back and I'll give you a hassle-free refund. That way, you don't lose out on your chance to claim the clearly filtered purifying pitcher. And you've also got a full 90 days to see if there's something better out there. I'm willing to do that because this has been the most powerful purifying filter I've seen. But for one last test, I've got some dirty lake water. You can see all the gross contaminants in the water. There's algae, dirt, and bacteria in this water. You can tell it's contaminated. So let's see how the filter pitchers handle this. The Brita filter pitchers have nothing but a carbon filter, so they can't stop the bacteria coming through. And they can get clogged up by the algae and dirt. The clearly filtered purifying pitcher's gnat clean filter has a special section that absorbs the bad bacteria in a special trap, but lets the healthy minerals through. Take a look at the water now. See how his hand looks all fuzzy behind the Brita pitcher? You can see some of the contaminants floating around. That's because the Brita filter can get clogged and keep the water gross. But look at the clearly filtered purifying pitcher. It's completely clean. The best part is, it pulls out heavy metals, fluoride, and chemical fertilizers that are bad for you too. Right now, you're at a crossroads. Option 1. You can keep drinking the same water you've been drinking. It may have sex-changing prescription drugs, cancer-causing benzene, IQ-lowering fluoride, and toxic heavy metals. But this is an option. Or option 2. You can decide to do something about your water, spend hours scouring the internet, and miss out on this easy solution if it sells out. Or option 3. You can test drive the clearly filtered purifying pitcher right now. Remember, it forces water through deluxe coconut carbon with 2.0 micron holes so no big bacteria can get through. Then pulls the water through a half a football field's worth of micro channels and finally uses its special gnat clean system to absorb some toxins and trap others like a mousetrap. And most importantly, it's got the lab tests to prove it. If you don't grab your clearly filtered purifying pitcher, I will not promise to save one for you. Click the button to test it out. If you don't like it or find a better system, just let me know and we'll refund your total purchase price. If you're on the fence, I've got a free bonus I'd like to throw in. You're also going to get 100% free shipping. I can ship to your home address, office, or even a friend's house. Just click the button below and let me know where you want your pitcher shipped. Click the button now.